takes us back to Ralph, quick question. I tried to remember Sandy. What was her last name? Who worked with, remember Sandy? She then went to Beth Tefillah? Okay, when you think of it, you'll shout out at me.
Yeah.
All right.
Almost.
We're good.
Ralph, can I put you to work?
It's time.
It is time. Page 558. We begin with Ashrae for Shabbat Minhah, and Sandy will lead us.
And Ralph, will you be the responder?
Sure.
Ashrae Yeshvei Veitecha Od Yahalu Chasela.
Ashrae ha'am oh. Go ahead.
Yahweh David, Mincha HaMelech, Lavarchat Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed.
Kol yom arvacheka, v'alashimcha le'olam va'ed.
Hadalam Raim Lo Me'od, V'ligdulata Ve'en Cheker.
Dor l'dor shabach masecha, guratecha yagidu.
Hadar Kavod Hodecha, V'divrei Nifletecha Asicha.
Zuz nortecha yomeru, guratecha asafrana.
V'chlatufla Yabiyu, V'tzikacha Yeranenu.
Hanun v'achum Adonai, el chapayim udal chased.
Tov Adonai Lakol, Rachamav Kol Ma'asav.
Yoduchanai kol masecha, b'chasidecha yevachucha.
Kavod Malchutcha Yameru, Gvuratcha Yedaberu.
Yodir b'nei hadam geburata, b'chot hadar malchuto.
Malchutcha Malchut Kol Olamim, Memshaltucha B'chol Dor V'Dor.
Shomech Adonai l'chol hanoflim, zokef l'chol hakfufim.
Inei Chol Lecha Yisaberu, V'atanoten Lahem Et HaChoklam B'ito.
Poteach et yadecha, maspia l'chol chai ratzon.
Tzadik Adonai B'chol Deracha, V'chasi B'chol Ma'asav.
Karov Adonai l'chol kariah, l'chol ashik ra'uhu ve'emet.
Ritzon Yerei Av Yaseh, V'et Shavatam Yishma V'yeshiyem.
Shomer Adonai kol ohava, v'yeko harshayim yashmid.
Hilat Adonai Yidaber Pi, V'vorech Kol Basar Shem Kachel Le'olam Va'ed.
Ha'anachnu nevarech ya, me'ata v'yed olam, hallelujah.
V'anachnu nevarech ya, Me'ata v'yad olam hallelujah. Uva l'tzion, Goel Shavei Pesha Yaakov Ne'em Adonai. B'nei Zaboriti. Because El Zevi Amar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzavot, Malach Haaretz, Kevodam, Kavlindan. Yisaini Ruach, Veshma Acharei Kol Rash Gadol, Baruch Kavod Adonai Mim Kamo. V'hurachim yechaper avam v'lo yashli, v'yarbal ashiva pavur chachamatok. Vayiftechu b'cha yedei shemecha, v'azavta dorshecha Adonai, Adonai chafetz leman shitko, yagdil Torah v'ya'adir.
We rise for Tzikadish.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Yom adibrach l'rupei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayachon v'yamechon. V'yedecho Beit Yisrael bagalav v'zman kari v'yimaru.
Amen. Yesh me'abam vorach le'olam omer maya.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitramam v'yitnasei. Yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalos shmei d'kudusha b'richu. V'lam min kol brachata v'shirata tishbachata v'nechamata. Tamiran b'yama v'imru. Amen.
Rise, say the Hotza'at HaTorah, Ki Mitzion.
Ki mitzion teitzi Torah, dvar Adonai mirushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah le'amei Yisrael, v'kedushato. L'chol Adonai v'duah, v'gvurah v'tiferet v'netzach v'hahod. Kilcho b'shamayim v'ba'aretz, l'chol Adonai mamlecha b'mitnaseh l'chol rosh. V'mamu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu adem raglav kadoshu. V'mamu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu lahar kadsho. V'kadosh Adonai Eloheinu.
May be seated.
V'madbekim b'Adonai Elohechem, chayim kolchem hayom.
We will be reading from Parshat Behar. The Shabbat will be reading Behar B'Chukotai and conclude the book of Vayikra. And very, very compelling text. We begin with Jeffrey. What page is that on the?
In Eitz Chaim, we're on page 738, and in the Hertz Chumash, we're on page 531.
Okay. So chapter 25 in Vayikra, verse 1. Eliza, would you read for us the first 3 psukim, please? And we need to do the bracha for Kriyat
Which
Torah.
bracha?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, which bracha do we do? Last Sok B'divrei Torah?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu v'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe b'har Sinai lemor daber el b'nei Yisrael v'amarta alehem ki tavo el haaretz asher ani noten lachem v'shavta haaretz Shabbat l'Adonai she'eshanim tizra sadecha v'sheishanim tizmor karmecha v'asafta et vuata.
Thank you, Eliza. We are introduced to the concept of Shemitah, which frankly is just not workable. To take one whole year out of a 7-year cycle and not to work at all is a prescription for disaster. When you mix that with the drought that is inevitable in that part of the country, you're looking at starvation on a regular basis. So this had to be worked out eventually and somewhat. We continue with the second aliyah. And Sandy, would you be kind enough? Verses 4 through 7, please.
Uvashana hashvit Shabbat Shabbaton yeh la'aretz Shabbat l'Adonai Sadcha lo tizra v'charmacha lo tizmor Et sefiach kitzircha lo tiktzor ve'et Inve nizirecha lo tivtzor shenat Shabbaton yeh la'aretz v'hayata Shabbat ha'aretz lachem la'achla lecha u'abdecha v'lamatecha v'lischircha u'toshavcha Hagarim imach, believe him techa, v'lachaya asher ba'artzecha, tiyecho tevuata le'echol.
Just to share with you a little bit about the history of this, the rule is that if you're on one side of the block, you're in Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, and you may not work the entire 7th year. If you cross the street, you could be in Lebanon and Jordan and Egypt and anywhere, and you're allowed to work the land and earn a living and make a living. And tragically, during the time of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, who is the chief editor of the Mishnah, he sought to cut back on the Shemitah business. And he had such resistance. And the trouble was that many, many farmers left Judea to be in the land that is not Judea so that they could work and make a living. And it was a very serious problem. And not even Yehuda HaNasi, the chief editor of the Mishnah, could prevail on the community to take it back. And now we're going to find out about the...
Oh, wait a minute, Moshe. So if the farmers all left, who are the people that are insisting that Shemitah be observed?
The people who didn't have to work and were rabbis who felt strong enough that this is what the Torah says and that's what we do. Think of Miron. You hear year after year, don't gather, you need different plans. And they say, no, 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 no. People come and say, anyway, sad story. We now read about the Jubilee year. 7 times 7 years would bring you to a Jubilee year, which was 49 days. And then the cycle of the biblical calendar, the solar calendar, would come back into some kind of match with the astronomical facts that we see out in the skies. Ruth Ann, if you please, chapter 25, verse 8.
וספרת לך 7 שבתות שנים, 7 שנים, 7 פעמים, והיו לך ימי 7 שבתות השנים, 49 שנה. ועברת שבר תרועה בחודש השביעי, בעשור לחודש, ביום הכיפורים, תעבירו שופר בכל ארצכם, וקידשתם את שנת 50 שנה, וקראתם דרור בארץ לכל יושביה, יובל היא תהיה לכם, ושבתם איש אל אחוזתו, ואיש אל משפחתו תשובו, יובל היא שנת 50 שנה תהיה לכם, לא תזרעו ולא תקצרו את ספיחיה, ולא תבצרו את נזיריה, כי יובל היא קודש תהיה לכם, מן השדה תאכלו את תבואתה, בשנת היובל הזאת תשובו, היא של אחוזתו.
Thank you. Wonderful, lovely reading. And just to make the point, the Jubilee year after 49 years was a year that lasted 49 days. It wasn't a full year. And in verse 10, you have the sentence that appears in the Liberty Bell, and you shall proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. This is the source of that incredible call for freedom. And the Torah continues to try to make this ideal that we all live in liberty and having to deal with the fact of making a living and so on and so on. Anybody has a yard site or, yes, who's the yard site for, Erica? You still don't have your microphone working, right? Jeffrey, can you get that from her, please? You're muted, so I can't hear a thing you're saying.
Erica, you can type in the chat if you'd like, please.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Till we get that straightened out. So the Jubilee year lasted only up until the destruction of the first temple in 586 BCE. When Jews come back from Babylonia, they have a new calendar, and the new calendar is much more accurate, and you don't have the need for the Jubilee year of 49 days to bring the calendar into proper account with the astronomical facts. The year in the biblical calendar is 364 days, which is short one day. And after 49 years, you have to add to that. Jeffrey, are we good?
So Erica writes that she's remembering observing the yard site of a friend of hers. I don't know the friend's name.
Okay. Morris connected to audio. Hi, Morris. Is this your son, Morris?
Oops,
Must
let's
be.
unmute.
Okay. All right. So let's continue with the davening, and we welcome Morris's son. And we are on page 570. Ki lekach tov. Ki lekach tov. Sandy, please. The bottom of 578.
Ki lekach tov natati lachem torati al tazovu. Eitz chayim hi lamachazikim ba v'tom cheha shiracheha darchenoam v'chol netivoteha shalom. Ashivenu Adonai Hashuva Kadeshamenu Keke.
Kaddish 572, please rise.
Yikarav Yikara Shemei Rabbah
Amen.
Yom Adibrachute V'Yamlich Malchute B'Chayachon of Yamechon V'Chayedecho Beit Yisrael V'Galat Zman Kariv Yimru Amen.
Yehishme'el Bamborach L'olam Almei Maya.
Yitbarach V'Yishtabach Yit'ar V'Yitramam V'Yitnaseh V'Yithadar V'Yitalev V'Yitalal Shemei Dekudesha B'Richu Elamin kol berchata v'shvulata, tishbachata v'nechamata, tamiran b'yama v'imru. Amen.
We recite the Amidah silently, 574, and we speak to God directly in silence, and then we will return to a complete repetition. Please continue at your own pace if you've not finished. Sandy is going to begin the repetition on the inside back cover and then back to 574. Sandy, please.
Ki Shem Adonai Ekra, Havu Godel Eloheinu, Adonai Sfatai Tiftach, Lefi Yagiti Latecha, Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor Vanara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Bekonei HaKol, Zocher Chasdei Avot, Umei Goel Livnei V'neihem, L'man Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Hazer Faked Mashiach Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avraham Faked Sarah,
Amen.
Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Machayei Metim Atarav Lehoshia, Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed, Machayei Metim B'Rachamim Rabim, Samech Neflim V'Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Mekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Milchama Chabal Gabarot, Umidam Elach, Melch Meimit, Umchayem Matzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atal HaChayot Meitim, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayem Meitim.
Amen. 576. Kadeshim Habaolam, Kashem Shema Geshim Oto B'Shmei Marom, HaKatuv Al Yad Nevi'echa, Kazel Tzvi Amar.
Nikadesh et Shemcha ba'olam, Kashem shemakdishim ota b'shmei marom, Kakatuv al yad nevi'echa, V'kara ze el ze v'yamar.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, L'chol haaretz kevodo, Gam b'chmeiru.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melech haaretz kevodo, li'umatam, Baruch yameru.
Baruch kevod Adonai mimkomot, Rechecha katuv leimor.
Baruch kavod Adonai mimkomot, Rechecha katuv leimor.
Yimloch Adonai leolam, R'chayach Tzion, Ledor v'dor, Hallelujah.
Yimloch Adonai le'olam, El Hayich Tzion, Ledor Vador, Hallelujah. Ledor Vador, Nagid Gadlecha, Unetzach Netzachim, Kedushatcha Nakdish, V'shivchacha Henu Mipinu Le'emish le'olam va'ed, Ki El Melech Gadol V'kadosh Atah, Baruch Atah Adonai,
Oh,
El HaKadosh.
you be seated, 578.
Ta echad v'shimcha echad umi ke'amcha Yisrael umi ke'amcha Yisrael goy echad ba'aretz tiferet gedula v'ateret Yeshua yom menucha ukdasha li'amcha natata Avraham Yagel Yitzchak Iranein Yaakov uvanav yanuchavo Menuchat ahava undava, menuchat emet ve'emunah, menuchat shalom v'shalva, v'hashket v'avetach, menuchat shlema shata rotzeh ba. Yakiru vanecha v'yed'u ki meitcha hi menuchatam, v'yal menuchatam, yakdishu et shemecha. Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, v'tzevim nuchatenu, Kachenu b'mitzvotecha, v'tenchalkenu b'toratecha, sabenu mituvecha, v'samchenu b'shuatecha, v'taher libeinu li'avdecha be'emet, v'anchilenu Adonai Eloheinu b'yahava uvratzon, Shabbat kadshecha, v'yanuchu v'Yisrael mekadshei shemecha, Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
Amen.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu b'amcho Yisrael v'tfilatam v'shevet havodah lidvir beitecha v'tfilatam ba'avot kabel baratzon v'tila ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha v'techazen eineinu b'shivcha l'tzion barachamim Baruch atah Adonai.
Yeah.
המחזיר שכינתו לציון.
מודים אנחנו.
אם אנחנו לך, שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ואלוהי אבותינו לעולם ועד. צורכנו מגן ישנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. נודה לך ונספר תהילתך, על חיינו המסורים בידיך ועל נשמתנו, הפקודה לך ועל ניסך אשר בכל יום עמנו, ועל נפלאותיך וטובתך אשר בכל עת ערב ובוקר וצהריים. הטוב כי לך לרחמך, והמרחם כי לא תמול חסדך מעולם קיווינו לך. ויל כולם יתברך ויתרומם שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד. וכל החיים יודוך סלע, ויעלו את שמך באמת, האל ישועתנו ועזרתנו סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני התקווה להודות.
אמן.
שלום רב על ישראל עמך ועל כל יושבי תבל תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום, וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני, ברך את עמי ישראל בשלום.
Shalom, page 596.
יקרא ויקרא שמי רבה,
Amen.
עמד יברח לרתי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ובימיכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו.
Amen.
אמן.
May Rabba
יתברך, לעולם ועולמיה.
Yitbarach.
וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה. לעולם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תשבחתה ונחמתה, דמירם בעלמה ואמרו. אמן. תתקבל צלות הון ובאות הון דכל ישראל, קדם אבוהון דבשמיא ואמרו.
Amen.
יהי שלום הרבה מן שמיא, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו.
Amen.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו.
Amen. Alenu 598 we rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כלהם, וגור עלינו בכל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שונות השמיים ויעשה מה כן נקווה לך אדוני אלוהינו לראות מהרה בתפארת עוזך, להעביר גילויים מן הארץ והאלילים יכרתון, לתקן עולם במלכות שדי, וכל בני בשר יקראו בשמך, להפנות אליך כל ראשי הארץ יכירו וידעו כל יושבי תבל, כי לך תכרע כל ברך תשבע כל לשון, לפניך אדוני אלוהינו יכרו ויפלו, ולכבוד שמך יכרתנו, ויקבלו כולם את עול מלכותך, ותמלך עליהם מהרה לעולם ועד, כי המלכותך היא עול מעד, תמלך בכבוד. כך כתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Thank you. That was simply lovely. On this Shabbat, we recall with love those who gave us life and those who shared life with us, whose yortzeit is Shabbat, the 19th of Iyar, May 1st, 2021. following names are listed in our perpetual memorials at Chizuk Amuno, and they are inscribed in our hearts and our souls. Morton Jacob Abrams, Esther H. Blumenfeld, Sarah N. Dean, Morris Deckelman, Adolf Gensler, Jesse N. Poland, Esther Shapiro, Isaac Shapiro, Harold Sober, Benjamin Taft, Edna Wolf. Jeffrey, anybody else? That's it. Okay. Yortzeit and Mourners Kaddish, page 600. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah,
Amen.
ve'almad yivrach cherutei ve'yamlich machutei, v'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayei l'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agalav v'zman kariv ve'imo amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'l'olmei omaya, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקדושה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירם בעלמה ועמו אמן. שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועמו אמן. עשה שלום עממה והוא יעשה שלום לנו ועל כל ישראל ועמו. You're going to be seated because we go straight into the Harit service. We'll be sitting and waiting, and that's less fun than having to wait in the time in between. A couple of questions of interest. Lauren, how long has it been since Mom has passed?
A little over 3 months.
And what have you experienced over these 3 months?
Well, I think the Minyan is definitely extremely helpful in getting through this period of time.
You want to just amplify a little bit?
You know, I almost feel, you know, you read in the newspaper or you hear from people who lost a close family member or a beloved friend, and they just seem so lost, and they might say, you know, I don't know what to do. I don't know, you know, should I go back to work? Should I, you know, they don't know what to do. And I think that Judaism, in its wisdom, distilled from many, many hundreds or thousands of years, I didn't have to ask that question. I don't know what to do. I know what to do. And it gives me a great feeling of, you know, peace and contentment, that I don't need to feel I'm missing something or feel guilty or not mourning the proper way or being disrespectful, or, you know, I feel like I just go to Minyan every day. It's taken care of.
Beautiful. Thank you. I mean, it's something that I know, but to hear it actually from a person is really instructive. Elisa, do you mind sharing with us, how long has it been since Mom passed?
Just under 3 months.
Also 3 months. Would you share with us your journey?
I don't really know how to articulate it. You know, it's been such a long process because of my mother's prolonged dementia.
Right.
You know, so I was really in mourning, although obviously not following Jewish mourning practices, but I was in mourning for years and years before she actually died. You know, and I think that the hardest part for me still to accept is that I wasn't able to be with her for a year, you know, for her last year because of COVID. You know, and I wasn't able to be with her at the end. So that's, I think, that the hardest part of all of it. You know, and on the positive side, because we are doing services via Zoom, my brothers and I actually can participate in the same services sometimes, which is really nice. I lead Wednesday evening minyan at Beth Israel on their Zoom, and very often both my brothers will come to Wednesday evening minyan at Beth Israel because they know that I'm leading. And, as this past Sunday night, we were actually with my brother who lives in New Jersey and his wife. And so, David and I and Ben and Linda were all together at minyan, which but normally, because we're dispersed geographically, we wouldn't have been able to share that kind of experience. So, I would say that's probably one of the positives of all of this. But, it's not the same as being with people. And it's, sorry, I have two dogs that are having fun in the background. We're babysitting for my middle son's dog, and they're attacking each other right now. So
Not too bad. Not too bad.
that I guess it's really nice, as Lauren said, to have the community of Minyan, but I can't wait for Minyan to be back in person on a regular basis. I think that, the community where you're actually physically with each other is so important too.
Right. Without doubt, you're right. Just reflecting on, did you find that even though you were in mourning for a year, when the hour came and Mom actually passed, there was, I imagine, a qualitatively different moment?
Oh, for sure it's different, but I think, yes, it was absolutely different. And there is that, now it's that finality, and my heart of hearts, although she was not truly living a life that she would have wanted to be living,
Correct.
I kept hoping that she would hold on until I could be there with her in person again, which I even said to her, although she didn't really comprehend it, I'm sure, when we had a FaceTime call a couple of days before she died, and I said, you got to hold on till I'm vaccinated and I can be with you again. But it wasn't to be. But yeah, so it's different, it's now I guess it's more public mourning as opposed to my own personal internal mourning that I had been going through for years. So it's definitely different, and we experienced it with my grandmother also, because my grandmother had dementia. So it brings a finality to this long mourning while the person is alive.
Last question. What did you learn from your mother when she was mourning her mother?
I learned that she never ever wanted to be in that situation. That she was, I say that she was from the just shoot me school.
Right.
It was horrible for her watching, my grandmother, and not being able to, because the person's slipping away right before your eyes, and by the end, they're not who they were. And I knew, so one of the really positive things for us as her kids was that we knew she did not want any extraordinary measures to keep herself,
Right.
to keep her alive. And even when they called me to tell me that she had been tested positive for COVID, and they're like, we could take her to the hospital. It's like, no, do not take her to the hospital. Let what's going to happen. So, but she also, the whole time that my grandmother was declining, my grandmother was in Milford Manor for her last several years. My mother would go there and feed her, and try and go there at meal times. And I sort of followed in her footsteps pre-COVID. once I retired, I would be able to go visit my mother every day. And I would try and do it at a mealtime. So at least we had some ability to interact that way. And it also spelled the staff at the facility where she lived. I mean, they were excellent, but this way, you know, my mother and I could at least connect. So, you know, I don't know what to say, and I don't want to drag everybody else down with me.
Of course. I mean, there's nothing really to say, but thank you for sharing. It really just affirms the doubtful situation, the uncertainty and the difficulty. And thank you, really, you and Lauren, thank you so much. I find it very comforting and to hear and to know and explore that space that God forbid we get there, but all the help we can get. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's do Ma'ariv, page 200. Eliza, do you mind leading us in service, please? You need to unmute, please.
Yeah, let me just pull my thing up a second so I can stand. Sorry about that. Love technology. Vehu rachum yichaper avon velo yashchit, vehir bala hashiva po velo ya'ir kol chamato, Adonai Hoshea hamelach ya'anenu v'yom kor'enu, Baruch hu Adonai, Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach,
Baruch Adonai Baruch le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed, Baruch Adonai. El Chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch ata Adonai ha'ma'avi ha'ravim.
Amen.
Olam Beit Yisrael ha'avtato. Ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu v'hem negeh yomam v'alayla v'ahavatcha al tasir mimenu li'olamim Baruch ata Adonai ohev amo Yisrael.
Amen.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol moedecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha b'derech u'shochtecha uv'kumecha v'kshartam la'ot al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam המזוזות ביתך ובשעריך והיין שמות תשמעו. למען ירבו ימיכם וימי בניכם על האדמה אשר נשבע אדוני אבותיכם לתת להם כי מהשמיים על הארץ. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת להם ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם ונתנו על ציד הכנף בטיל תכלת, והיה לכם לציצית וריתם אותו. וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריכם. למען תזכרו ועשיתם מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת, אמת נאמנה. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם, משה בני ישראל לחנו שירה ושמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. ומלכותך ראו בניך בוקר ים לפני משה, זה אלי אנוכי אמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי בדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
אמן.
Page 206, השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו שלום. שמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם, ברוך אתה אדוני שומר עמות ישראל לעד. ברוך אדוני לעולם אמן בימים, ברוך אדוני מציון שכן ושלנו. ברוך אדוני ביום, ברוך אדוני בלילה, ברוך אדוני בשכבים, ברוך אדוני בקומבינים. כי המלכות שלך היא לעולמי עד תמלוך בכבוד, כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני המלך בכבודו תמיד למלוך עלינו לעולם ועד בכל מעשיו.
אמן.
יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה.
אמן.
ועלמא דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה וזמן קריב יאמרו אמן.
אמן. יש
לעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה שמי לקודשה בריחו. ואלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירם בעלמה ויאמרו אמן.
We recite the Amidah silently on page 210 to 220. Please remember to include the top of 212, Atachon Antanu, for the end of Shabbat. We recite silently the Amidah, speaking to God directly. We continue with Kaddish Shalem, page 222.
Yikadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Yom adivra kirote v'yamlich machote v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayedecho beit Yisrael v'agalav yitzvan kariv yimru amen.
Yeshmeh
Baruch le'olam le'omei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitala v'yitala t'mei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechmata demiram b'yoma v'yimru amen.
Amen.
Kabal Saloton Uvoton Dechol Yisrael Kadamavuhon Devishma V'imru Amen.
Amen.
Yahei Shlama Rabba Min Shemai V'chaim Aleinu V'yalko Yisrael V'imru Amen.
Amen.
Oseh Shalom B'mromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'yalko Yisrael V'imru Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Eliza. We turn to page 237 for Sfirat HaOmer, the counting of the Omer. And we'll read in English the paragraph on the top, followed by the bracha. And last night we counted 34. So we know what to count tonight. And that's a long story about the Omer. We'll talk about it some other time. We read in English, please, 237. I am ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer as it is ordained in the Torah. You shall count from the eve of the second day of Pesach, when an Omer of grain is to be brought as an offering, 7 complete weeks. The day after the 7th week of your counting will make 50 days. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. And again, last night we counted 34. And so we know what to count. It's on page 240. Hayom Shisha, Hayom Chamisha Ushloshim Yom, Shehem Chamisha Shavuot LaOmer. Today is 35 days, which are exactly 5 weeks to the Omer. We have 2 weeks to go, and the end is very much in sight. We turn back to Leinu. No, actually, we'll do Havdalah. How's that? Havdalah is good. We light a candle and we raise a cup of wine and we announce the end of Shabbat and the beginning of the weekday. And we remember the tragedy in Israel, and we are indeed heartbroken with that. Page 700. Savri Ma'ana Babalan Vyotai Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Borei Pri Hagafen. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Borei Minei V'Samim. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Borei Meorei Ha'esh. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Hamavdil Ben Kodesh L'Chol Ben Or L'Choshech Ben Israel Amim, Ben Yom HaShvi'i L'Sheshet Yemei HaMa'aseh Baruch Atah Adonai Hamavdil Ben Kodesh L'Chol. Dil Ben Kodesh L'Chol Chatoteinu Yimchol Ainu V'Chaspenu Yarbek Achol והכוכבים בלילה, שבוע טוב, שבוע טוב, הגות אבוך, הגות אבוך, שבוע טוב, שבוע טוב, הגות אבוך, הגות אבוך, אליהו הנביא, אליהו התשבי, אליהו, אליהו, אליהו הגלעדי, במהרה בימינו יבוא אלינו, עם משיח בן דוד, עם משיח בן דוד, אליהו הנביא, אליהו התשבי, אליהו, אליהו, אליהו הגלעדי. Good Gebenchwoch, Mazel Parnasse Nachas von den Kindern, gesund, gesund, gesund. Stock market is less important than gesund. And with that, Aleinu bevakasha.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שלום תשמעו בסדר. אוקיי, נקבל לך אדוני אלוהינו. כי המלכות שלך היא ולעולמי עד תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Thank you, Aliza. Beautifully done. We recall with love those who gave us life and shared life with us, whose yortzeit is Say Shabbat Yom Rishon, Sunday, the 10th of Iyar, May 2nd, the year 2021. The following names are listed in our perpetual memorials at Chizuk Amuno, and they are inscribed in our hearts and our souls. Leroy Ann Binder, Mary Plain Fox, Michael M. Goodman, Howard Jackman, Fanny Levin, Herbert Levy, Rose Moskowitz, Hyman Say, Mary Schwartzman, Selma Smolian, Dr. Norman I. Zipper. Jeffrey? Oh, good. Yortzeit in Mourners Kaddish, page 226. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma nivrach hirutei ve'amlich nachutei, b'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agalav v'zman karev v'imo amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach, le'olam u'le'olmei olmaya, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירם בעלמה ועמו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועמו אמן. Say shalom b'mamav, hu yaseh shalom, leinu v'al kol Yisrael v'emu amen. Shavua tov, a good gebencht voch. Tomorrow morning at 9:30, Jeffrey, is that correct? Tomorrow morning at 9:30.
No.
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock, isn't it?
Oh, okay, that's why I'm asking. I asked, I wasn't declaring anything. Thank you, Ruthann. And thank you for helping me. 9 o'clock from now on. And that's always, there's no 9:30 on Sunday anymore?
Yeah,
Until they change it again.
Okay. And thank you. And there will be breakfast. Please make sure to get breakfast ready for you because we will have breakfast tomorrow morning. Services begin at 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock tomorrow.
Norman is Margot's husband, right?
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Indeed.
Then maybe she'll be there.
Well, let's hope we'll see or hear from her. I hope she's well and good. To you all, first of all, happy birthday, Bruce. Celebrate every day till your 81st.
Happy
And,
birthday to Bruce.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bruce. Happy birthday to you.
Any more?
Many, many more. Have a lovely evening. A good Geben Shvoch. Aliza, thank you for your kind words. And
It could have been Moshe's dog, though, you know. Sorry.
I have just one, unless there's somebody walking outside that you get to hear him. It makes enough noise